Welcome to Movie and a Beer, everybody. This is Dan bringing us down, and on this wonderful, wonderful episode, we have some interesting things going on. This is an episode that we're really proud to have enjoyed and appreciate. The Chinese culture. The Lunar New Year is upon us, and
Happy New Year!
Oh, there we go. We have our
bells.
Our usual awesome co-hosts and friends with us,
Happy Year of the Rabbit.
and we have some fortunes that we're going to take a quick peek at. We've got cookies with fortunes in them.
We do have fortune cookies. Be demonstrative, but do it with dignity.
And who is that who just read that fortune?
I'm Aaron, and I read that fortune. I'm demonstrative, but the dignity I'm working on.
This is Blake, and I'd like to say that an ounce of gold cannot buy an ounce of time.
Nothing can buy time.
Except for that movie In Time with Justin Timberlake and
Correct.
Seyfried.
Correct.
But that's terrible. Don't watch
That's
it.
a bad movie.
Can you bide your time?
I mean, I probably could.
All right.
And I'm Brian. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Wonton or dumpling.
Ooh, that's awesome.
I'm jealous.
So mine has something, it's got lucky numbers, and it says learn Chinese fork, and it's got cha Z on one side, which
I
means
was about to
fork,
say,
I
did
guess.
you check the other side?
And the other side has a fortune, and mine is an understanding heart warms all that are graced with its presence.
Aww.
Oh,
That's pretty good.
That's a good fortune. I like the fortune.
So anyway, what did we watch tonight?
We
Dan?
watched
Terminator 2.
Yeah, no, we did earlier tonight, but we enjoyed House of Flying Daggers, and here in Portland, it's, you'd think if they're with a larger Asian community that there'd be plenty of Asian beers available on the market, which most of them are Taiwanese or in a lot of Japanese beers, but not a lot of Chinese beers. I went to a few stores looking, and the one place I found a couple that I have at least had one before and have a new one to try, I was able to get Yanjing or Yanjing. I do not know how to pronounce it, nor am I going to try. And
I'm going to try. I'm going to say Yanjing.
Yanjing?
Yanjing.
And there's a premium lager, and the other is Tsingtao, which is available in most, I guess you'd say, Chinese restaurants and most other like Thai, and I've seen it in a lot of Asian restaurants, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of them have it.
Right.
So nationally distributed, this Yanjing, I'm not sure if it's nationally distributed because this is the first time I'd actually ever seen it.
I don't know. It's got the Great Wall of China on it.
Yeah.
Like on the label.
I give props to...
That means it's authentic.
It must be authentic.
Well, we can get into it later, but I just saw where it's imported exclusively.
Yeah.
New Jersey? Is it imported through
It's
New
close.
Jersey?
New York.
All right. So we did House of Flying Daggers in honor,
great
which
movie.
is an interesting 2004 film. We're back in 2004 for those that have listened in the past episodes over the last year.
It's our happy place.
It is a happy place we visit.
Aaron fixed the time machine that I broke.
Yeah, totally broke it. And we also do have a fun shot of liquor called Baijiu, which I don't know when the guys want to do it, but it's a pretty harsh all grain. Well, it's not grain; it's actually just rice,
Distilled from rice.
Distilled from rice. So this is an alcohol that is pretty prevalent across China. Most small towns and villages have their own brand or or people make it themselves.
Oh, cool.
It's just a distilled liquor from rice. So like they have vodka all over,
Russia
and all over most of Europe.
Like the Slavic world, yeah.
Slavic world.
is that similar to whiskey being in Scotland and Ireland, or is that
Yeah.
something different? Okay.
It's just a traditional liquor that they made.
Cool.
And that was actually purchased at Hollywood Liquor. So, props to Belmont Station and for Hollywood Liquor for helping us out with these drinks, which we'll talk about in a bit. I don't know if we want to do the shot now or we want to talk a little bit.
Well, I was going to
first.
ask, do you want to do this shot when we start talking about the drinks, or do
Yeah,
it now?
let's-
Either way, we're recording what happens.
Let's do it then.
Yeah,
and then
let's-
we can
let's
talk
hold on.
about the shot and then talk about the beers.
Our listeners will hear, we got sober movie and a beer first, and then not.
What are you
sober.
talking
not so
about? I feel
sober.
great.
So this is a great film. It came out after Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It has the same younger female lead that film has, and it's a great kind of love story. But there's political plot twists with the government and one of the gangs that's trying to, as they say, steal from the rich and give to the poor.
Right.
But they're still afraid of them because they're thugs and violent,
Right.
and so on.
Yeah.
And they like to
And they
expose their
confront
shoulders.
the authority.
They do. They
Yeah.
confront the authority.
Yeah, it was the titular House of Flying Daggers, which I thought I watched this movie and I clearly didn't. Every scene I was like, oh, Oh yeah. I saw this in a trailer, and I think that was about it. And most of the flying dagger shots. Had no idea it was like a Robin Hood stealing from the rich, give the poor thing. Had no idea there's a love story.
A love triangle.
Yeah.
Tragic
Yeah.
romance. Everyone
Right.
dies in the end. I'm just going to plot spoil it.
I wonder if
mean,
this
at this
movie suffered somewhat for coming out kind of so closely on the heels of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Like maybe people like they saw that, and that for I think people at least around my age, that was one of the big introductions to like Chinese cinema.
I think for a lot of America it was.
Right. It was hugely
Yeah.
successful.
Hugely successful, won several Oscars.
Yep. And then
It was parodied endlessly in terrible movies.
House of Flying Daggers comes along not too long after. I wonder maybe if it had, big shoes to fill.
Well, the trivia I was checking out, this was different in that it's is it Wuxia? Wuxia is, I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. That style of film with the wire works and the martial arts and the beautiful choreography, it's apparently strange for it to have like this much of a love story. It's usually focused on martial arts and like a broader story.
Yeah.
So it's different for them to have like 2 to 3 leads who are all like pining for each other. And
Well, I think around this time, there was a number of big budget films that came out of China that had a similar kind of interesting storytelling,
Yeah.
but were either centered more around war conflict and love was secondary, where this one is just straight love story.
yeah.
And conflict internal with the government official who's trying to play the ruse and he gets played, and then the person who's playing him gets played, and it's like, oh wow, spent 3 years of my life thinking of you every day just to have you turn your back on me. What's that about? It happens.
The original cut was, what's up with that? What's up with that?
Here, let me stick this in your back, and then you can think about it.
But aside from the love triangle, which I personally felt kind of flat,
Yes.
the fight choreography is astonishing and great to watch in this film.
Yeah, you had
and-
mentioned that most of the time it's 2 to 3 swings, and then that's a cut. They
Yeah,
were doing longer shots.
most Hollywood choreographed fights are 2 to 3 actions, blocks in sword fighting.
Yeah.
And then they cut because actors can't remember that many
Moves.
And this one, there were several times where there were 7 to 8 actions, blocks, repost, parries before they cut.
Yeah.
And it gave the fights a fluidity and an intensity and really a beauty that I, as a Western audience member, am not used to seeing at all.
It was like watching a dance happen.
What it's funny you say that, because I was just going to say the lead actress, Ziyi, gosh, I forget her last name. I can't believe I'm spacing it. Is it,
Zhang,
Zhang.
Zhang.
Yes, but she doesn't have a martial arts background. She is a dancer, and she probably brings this like dance aesthetic and this dance perspective to her acting and to the choreography of the fights. And I think there's an early scene where it's not a fight exactly. It looks like a fight, but she's playing drums with silk.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was just like a dance scene.
Right.
It was really, really good.
Yeah, but it segues into the first big fight of the
true,
film.
yeah.
Which was also very fluid and in flowing robes and was a dance and a fight. But from a martial arts movie standpoint, it was beautiful. It was cool.
Right. Yeah.
Why are you trying to kill me?
Yeah. And there were several fights later that were also really good fights. I mean,
the first bamboo fight scene was like, I think every one of us had something to say, all positive. Like, this is so cool. This has me thinking about how a lot of Western movies will do fight scenes, and Brian knows what I'm talking about. The reason most of you and your friends hate watching fight scenes in these movies is because they do 1,000 cuts. 1, to hide bad choreography. 2, because the actors don't remember all the moves. And 3, to quote unquote hype up the action when you're just shaking the camera a lot. That can be done well.
yeah.
But a lot of places
you cut
use it
really quick.
Yeah.
It impels action. It makes it feel
Yeah.
like something's really going on.
but less talented, I guess, cinematographers, directors. I'm not sure who really runs that particular portion. Editors, maybe.
Directors and fight choreographers.
Because the ones who cut it too often just make a jumbled mess.
Right.
The later Bourne movies were kind of falling into that as a crutch. The first couple, perfect. The guy doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what's happening. You're feeling his panic. later, like he knows who he is. I want to see a good back and forth fight scene.
But here you could kind of follow along spatially.
Oh,
who is where and what are they doing? And when there was a cut, it's kind of like there was continuity of who is where and what are they doing.
That's what I prefer in these kinds of movies.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're not confused. You're like, oh, I see exactly what's happening.
And that takes time to get right.
Yeah.
Because if the actors can't quite remember their moves, A, it gets dangerous. B, it exposes they're using rebated or rubber weapons.
Yeah.
Right.
And C, you've got to do a lot more takes because you've got to get it right on film if you're going to do 7 to 8 moves before cutting to a different angle.
And time is money, but
And-
no money can buy time.
Correct. So this was filmed in a couple different locations, but primarily it was really interesting. You had mentioned towards the end as part of the trivia, if you go to IMDb, you'll see that this was filmed in part of Yugoslavia.
Ukraine.
Or Ukraine.
The final fight scene.
Yeah, the final fight scene, big mountainous background, obviously kind of fall time, cloudy winter, natural lighting, very diffused, very flat lighting. There was no spot. There was not a lot of shadows, so very nice. You could see everything pretty clearly.
It feels like a normal thing with Asian cinema, right?
I was thinking about this because if you think of those like the old school classic like Chinese woodblock print of like a landscape scene and like Chinese landscape art and the way that the landscape itself, I don't want to say it has personality, but I think there's a different relationship between the landscape and people and the harmony of how people are fitting into that landscape. I think that the landscape in this movie was shown in several different scenes, and it wasn't that like, oh, the landscape was a character, not like that. But like
the landscape was bigger
Yes.
than the small human figures on the screen.
Yeah, it zoomed out a lot. There was a
Yeah.
lot of scenes where they were very small on the screen as compared to this giant picture, and I think part of it was also visual storytelling in that these are, as one of the characters said, we're just pawns in this big game.
Right.
And it's this big land and we're teeny little figures in this big giant scope. And it made sense.
I mean, I did forget there was a whole like Dagger gang versus the government thing happening because I was so focused on the love story. Like until they said they're like, oh yeah, right. They're just two pieces in this whole big thing that's going on. Forgot about that.
So I also want to say too, we were talking about some of the practical effects. Like this didn't read like clearly some of the throwing knives and throwing weapons is CGI, but
No, that's even more practice. That's how good the choreography is.
It didn't read as a lot of CGI though. Like it read as some practical effects, but there is also I think kind of this like an Asian aesthetic where they bend the rules with physics. To some extent, like the direction that that weapons will travel is somewhat magical because somebody is so highly skilled that
the guy fired 4 arrows and they all hit the exact same time. Even though he took like a few seconds to draw each one.
Right.
Like that's, and
then they hit the moving person in a spot that didn't kill them. It just went through their clothes.
God, that was so cool.
Yeah.
They're that good.
Yeah, and there was a lot of wire work and there were a lot of practical effects
Right.
that we don't have the time or the expertise to go into right now. But the wire work was great, and they got some great shots. But it didn't feel like a wire work heavy. And wire work is people doing somersaults and fighting each other in the air, climbing up bamboo stalks and fighting, flying inhumanly straight across the screen at almost hovering as they kick in a fight.
But that's how it always is, right?
Yeah.
Just because that's how you fight, Dan, doesn't
Not-
mean
not when
everybody
I
does
does
it.
it.
I've seen so many of these films that it's like, isn't that how it really works?
Oh, when you become a kung fu master, you can jump 14 feet laterally.
You get the Buddha's palm going.
But before that, you have to carry this water up these 100 steps 1,000 times.
Yes.
That works your leg muscles.
And one thing I'd like to mention, which was definitely practical and intentional, was the extreme control of color in some of the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, love it.
Once we got to the quote layer of the flying daggers, they were dressed in light green that mirrored exactly the bamboo forest they were in.
Right.
Yeah, the only off color were their hats. And even that was just like a muted tan yellowish.
Well, dried bamboo.
Yeah.
So again, I think part of it is the visual storytelling where they're part of the land. We represent the people in the land, whereas the government were in blue and dark blue. And
No natural colors.
No natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. And toward the end, as the love story
Became black and white.
Progressed.
progressed, and there's no way to not spoil this.
Let's spoil it. It's an old movie. It's all good.
As everybody died, the whole screen was white.
Yeah.
Became white and colorless.
They gave of themselves. They gave up themselves to the greater good of whatever it was they were fighting for, which was each other, and not this big picture.
So it's
The big
kinda-
picture is blank.
in the beginning of the film, we're in a city. There's like a jail, and like the colors are kind of dungy, sort of like urban. The colors are kind of,
Browns and grays.
Browns and grays.
browns
yeah.
and grays, 893 urban, and then we progress to where there's this natural world with a group that is essentially Robin Hooding around to support the poorer classes.
A lot more orange, whites and yellows.
There were some yellows and oranges in there, but it was like
And
green was sort of this
muted greens.
muted greens.
Yeah.
But then we go from like being Robin Hood with green to like you're living for your ideals, and you're maybe living for love, and that's white. It's like each color did have kind of a different a different tone
Yeah.
in the movie, that it was meaningful. Like
Yeah,
we all noticed it.
And in conjunction with that, I would also say that the film also kind of progressed through the seasons as the act structure progressed toward its conclusion.
It seems,
and we definitely had a summer, an early fall, a fall, and a winter.
Yeah.
As the climax happens.
yeah, the winter was a happy accident. I was checking the trivia, and for the final climactic battle in Ukraine, it unexpectedly snowed on them, and they had already shot some of the fight scene. They thought, well, this is perfect. This final scene will end with like all white. It'll match the tones we're going for. Plus, red blood on white snow. Always always good visual to look at. Not Disney. The people who did Snow White so long ago,
Right.
they got it right.
But it was cool though too to see like the snow accumulating and
Yeah.
realize like the time that's passed.
These guys have been fighting so long.
It made it into like this epic,
Well, and-
epic thing.
And I would say the unhappy accident amplified their intention.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, they were already tending toward gray. And as
Yeah.
the initial lovers split, one of them was on the side of the screen with birch trees, which are white, black, and gray. And the other one was against, I don't know which species of tree, but the tree had kind of fall colors, still light greens, gray trunks, but they were definitely
a more natural, typical tree
more
color.
natural, typical tree. But
Yeah.
both that gray and that white on the screen was very different than the bright green bamboo forest that they had just been in.
Right.
That was almost supernatural.
Yeah.
The way that I'm sure exposure and playing with the film and everything.
Yeah,
Oh, I
I'm
thought-
sure there was a colorist that boosted some of the.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this was totally
the
done.
saturation.
This was totally done on a computer. This was 2004. Everything got digitized. I'm sure, if not shot on digital.
Bamboo doesn't look like that.
No,
Oh man.
not usually. Not that cut. Not all of them looking that same shade of green.
But that forest did have kind of a magical feel to it
Oh, yeah.
because of like the color, the ambiance, and then like seeing all those bamboo stalks shooting straight up into
I
the
mean,
sky.
it was still intentional to have costuming, wardrobing match the same palette, as it were.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course, of
the
course.
bamboo forest.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely was intentional. And then they had the colorist push those colors and saturate the right tone of green and yellow, and drain out some of the reds and the blues.
So visually a beautiful film. I would say. I
Yes,
think
yeah,
so.
absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, I've seen this film a few times. I don't think I saw it in the theater, but I've definitely watched it at least 3 times because I remembered most of it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty interesting plot twisty thing towards the end versus you think it's one thing and then it really turns into something else, but then it not really. And it's like jilted lovers. It's like if I can't have her, no one can kind of vibe, which is kind of sad.
But it's also like there's you peel back the layers of the onion and like the plot changes and then the plot changes again and then the plot changes and you're like, didn't see this coming. I didn't see that coming either. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, but
yeah.
didn't see that coming. So it's a film with a few surprises. I appreciated that.
Yeah, and the one cop who was undercover, he felt really bad about killing, his own men, killing, the soldiers that came after them. He's like, you weren't supposed to do that. Why are you doing that? And you feel, there's a lot of, empathy that you build up for that character. No. He's having to do something that he knows is wrong.
The captain, you mean?
No.
Or the
Mr.
hero?
Wind.
Mr. Wind.
Mr. Wind.
Mr. Wind.
Yeah.
Mr. Wind, our main character.
All right. Well, we've been chatting now for a bit, and I think at this point we might break over to talking about some beers and a shot of Baijiu or Baiju or it has an interesting name.
Let's toast to the new Chinese Lunar New Year.
The year of the rabbits.
Cheers.
Can't really hear us, but we're
clinking.
We're clinking our glasses.
And here we go. Bottoms up.
It doesn't burn as bad as I thought it would, but it's pretty hard. So if you've ever had smooth.
Oh, it's not that bad, you guys.
No, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So it definitely is distilled.
Yep.
I can tell you that much.
It
tastes great.
It tastes like a rice wine, like a sake.
Yeah, it has kind of a sake vibe to it.
Yep.
Definitely you want to have some water or something to chase it with because it's now going to burn a little bit.
And it's called
Baijiu. Baijiu. The one that we're drinking is from Vin Distilling, Vinn, and that's
out of Wilsonville.
Oregon, outside of Portland. So these guys, you can find them at most local liquor stores. They are distributed across the Portland area. I don't know if they're up in Washington, but they make vodka. They make this and then a premium version of this, which is probably not as harsh, but it's all naturally distilled.
Mm-hmm. That's too cool.
It's really nice.
It's 100% rice with this one that we're having, and you can kind of tell like there's a little sweetness that comes kind of in the mid back palate before it does get like a little harsh. I wouldn't describe it as harsh.
It's
harsh.
not too bad.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not as mellow as sake, but it's
I'm not one for liquor, so anything distilled just hits me hard.
All right.
That's just me.
What's our proof on that, Blake? Does it say
40% or 80 proof? 80 proof.
80 proof?
Yeah, so 40% alcohol. Not too bad.
For 40 proof, I didn't get a lot of alcohol burn. I have to say they did a nice job with that.
Yeah, it was
pretty good. So I applaud them. Thank you for making good, I would say, traditional Chinese liquor available here in the States, especially like locally. I've not seen any. I mean, you can find soju and you can find a lot of different sakes.
Sake One is out in Forest.
There's local sake makers here in the Portland area, but I'm really glad we have this really kind of interesting, I guess you'd say, cultural appreciation here on the podcast.
Well, good artists create, but great artists steal.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
It's certainly better than cultural appropriation.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Yeah, we're avoiding that. Yeah. We're good people.
Okay, so the first beer that we tried, and again, we knew what we were watching. I went on an expedition looking for Chinese beers or beers imported from China, not necessarily made exclusively with Chinese ingredients.
Dan traveled alone and a long distance
on horseback
with beautiful
broad and afar,
with beautiful string music in the background and the vibrant yellows and greens of Portland behind him.
Yeah, so this is
found
green bottle 6-pack Yanjing beer, which is imported.
Beijing Yanjing Brewery Co. Ltd.
Oh, geez, here we go. Brian's playing the appropriate music in the background as we're reading this. So 4.7%.
Not playing it well, but he's playing it.
This is kind of a sweet grain and cereal malts. There's a little bit of caramel and molasses, citrus fruits on the front. It doesn't actually change flavor much as it warms up, which is nice. It is a green bottle, so I was expecting it to be a little bit more skunked, but it wasn't.
No.
I was pleasantly surprised, considering it was off the shelf and not out of a cooler.
I'd say it's like there's a sweetness to it.
I caught that.
Yeah. I would say if for like any food that you had that has some like MSG,
yes,
this would be a great companion to that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, or even on a hot day. On a hot day, this would be really satisfying. Maybe it's a little too sweet for like the hottest days of the year.
Maybe like a spring day. Like we just got the winter chill. Things are starting to get a little toastier. You can wear shorts.
You just did you hiked 3 way stations on the Great Wall of China. And
Yeah.
Ooh,
that would be really good.
That would be very good. Yeah.
But traditionally most premium lagers are lagers like this, which are adjunct based. This has probably got a lot of rice in it. is going to be lower alcohol, and this is like 4.7. So it's a little bit more forward and bigger than lagers from Asia tend to be, but that's okay. It doesn't taste like it. I'm just giving you that fair warning because some of them can be really, really light, like down around 3%.
Yeah.
But this one is not.
I think it matched the movie really well, especially early on. It was like we didn't really get a night scene except one at like the middle mark, I think.
Yeah, while they're escaping through the woods, they stop and have a fire.
Yeah, and then like in the bamboo forest, it was just you couldn't tell what time of day it was, which adds that magical quality.
If I have like a green lens filter over my glasses, or if I'm in a bamboo forest that feels a bit magical, I want to drink this beer.
Yeah,
there you go.
specifically.
Yeah, there you go.
It's in a green bottle. It's got a little sweetness to it, which matches the sweetness of this blossoming love affair in the film.
Right.
Definitely. Thumbs up on this wonderful beer. I want to say it was less than $10 for the 6-pack. I don't know how many different shops it's going to be available, but definitely if you have some finer bottle shops, probably I would say the big ones like John's Marketplace, definitely Belmont Station had it. I don't know about any of the smaller ones in that.
Do you think a Total Wine and More would carry it across anywhere in the U.S.?
Yeah, Total Wine and More might carry something like this. I know they definitely are going to have Tsingtao, which is the next one we're going to talk about. But yeah, I mean, this is an interesting. I had never had it before.
Likewise.
So I was pleasantly surprised.
I'd say probably any shop that has a good international section.
Yeah.
Good call. Yeah.
And there are, again, a lot of beers from like Taiwan and Chinese adjacent countries. But if you can't find this one, find something else that might go well with it as a premium lager.
Singa from Thailand is good. Hita from Korea.
Yep.
Sapporo from Japan.
Yeah, or Bami Ba.
I've had Saffro.
Saffron. It comes in little wisps.
I'm seriously trying to figure it out.
Sapporo.
Oh,
Sapporo
heavy
or
pink.
Sapporo.
Okay.
It comes in these big oil cans.
Yeah.
Really big cans.
I'm trying to genuinely learn. You guys are making fun of me. I don't appreciate it.
Oil
We've had
can
it. All the sushi places carry it.
Yeah.
I always get water at the sushi. Like, there's so much rice.
Well, that's why you don't have the Sapporo then.
That's why I'm genuinely asking.
Yeah. So the only other one that I can think of is you can find it at a lot of places, and maybe Vietnamese restaurants would be Bami Ba or 33, which is real similar to this as well. It's a rice lager. I've had it a few times. Gary always touts about it because it is, something he drank when he was in Vietnam. So
What's I was thinking that's Kronenberg 1776. That is not from Asia.
No. You can probably get it to Asia, but it doesn't come from there.
It is not.
No.
All right. So
It's
Brian,
good, though.
any thoughts on this green bottle?
No, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it went well with the film, and like I said, the light sweetness went very well with the blossoming romance.
It did. And it probably didn't hurt that we had a big old bunch of Chinese food before we watched the film. So it's like, yeah, we're ready for some light lagers because we had a lot of heavy food. So yeah, if you're going to eat before, have something lighter to go along with it. Mm-hmm.
Do you think this would match with popcorn at all?
No.
I never liked beer with popcorn myself.
No.
Unless it was flavored. And even then, questionable.
Yeah.
I don't even know, like pretzels. I don't even think I like pretzels. I don't even think I'd want this with pretzels. Maybe like salted peanuts.
Oh, that might work.
Yeah.
But this isn't movie and a snack. Well,
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
not.
I don't feel like I needed a snack with this beer. Kind of, it was kind of light and desserty.
yeah. Ooh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, like maybe mochi or like what are the
Mochi
Yeah,
might.
Mochi would
Yeah.
be cool. Yeah.
It is
Work.
movie and a snack.
It is. Here we go.
movie and a mochi?
Movie and a bite. We don't want to get sued.
No,
Yeah,
movie
yeah,
and a
yeah,
mochi.
yeah.
I'm all for movie and a mochi.
I'm on board.
All right, our second beer, Dan.
All right. So we found a 4-pack of Tall Boys of Tsingtao, which is usually in a green bottle. I've only ever
4
had
packs
it.
were out. That's a bummer.
Yeah, so this is these big Tall Boys, 16-ounce cans is about 4%, 25 IBU. There's a really interesting thing that I found off of official marketing material that says Tsingtao is produced with spring water from the Laoshan, a mountain area famous throughout China for the purity of its water.
Ooh.
The domestically grown hops used to brew Tsingtao are of such high quality that they are also exported to European breweries. Tsingtao also uses the finest yeast and barley imported from Australia and Canada in its brewing process. So in other words, they don't grow any grain locally to use, which is kind of weird. You'd
That
think
is
it
a
would
little
be
weird.
adjunct that it would. I don't know. It definitely doesn't taste like a rice lager to me. It definitely tastes like a European style lager.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might be why I liked it a little better.
So kind of close to a Pilsner in vibe.
That's probably why I liked
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
The
Love
hops
Pilsners.
though, the hops were really mild.
Yeah.
We all drank it and said, "Oh, yeah, it's got a little bit more bite to it." Than the first
Yeah.
one. The first
It-
one was mild and sweet.
It was a little more crisp, even.
Yes.
Crisp,
I would say.
Crisp got said a lot. I'd agree with it.
Yeah, and so this is out of a can and not out of a bottle. So again, if it's sitting at room temp, cans are going to be your friend more than bottles are. But be forewarned, you just don't know if it's going to be heat struck. That's the one thing where it's going to open it up and it's going to stink really bad. This did not. These were actually, both of these beers, surprisingly, were not
Yeah.
heat
Good,
struck or
yeah.
light struck. The green bottle tends to be a little bit more skunky because it does let light through. The brown bottles don't. That's why they use brown bottles more than green. Green bottles you're going to find like Heineken and Rolling Rock and, the really, really skunky
I
kind
use
of
brown
beers.
paper bag for my beers.
Those beers are meant to be drunk a little fresher, aren't they?
Correct.
Right.
They shouldn't sit around, and I have no idea how long these have been on the shelf. You have no way of knowing because it's coming from China.
Well,
I believe
it
that
says
these
on the
were
side imported exclusively by Polaner USA, White Plains, New York.
okay. So Polliner USA is the same Polliner company out of either Holland or Belgium.
Really?
And they
That's
also
why it sounds familiar.
they all have
Okay.
beers. Polliner is also a label you can get at Prost. They make German beers.
Like I thought it was like hams or like some of the bottom shelf.
Ooh, I could go for some ham right now.
Yeah,
We have some old German left over in the fridge, which would be actually not that far from this.
It's similar,
It's
yeah.
real similar.
Nice.
So, and that's not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's more similar to that.
I like old German.
Yeah.
There is. So it's got like this kind of the bready malt aroma is kind of faint, but when you taste it, it's really kind of more malt forward. The sweetness, and there's just like that really gentle floral hop kind of hit on the mid back for me anyway. I don't know, you guys might get something different out of it, but it's pretty good It's a good carbonation out of the can.
Oh, yeah.
The bottle was not as carbonated as the can was, but that's expected. Other thoughts?
I didn't get any sweetness. You mentioned sweetness on the back. I thought I didn't get any. That might be why I liked it a little better. I liked both beers. And I think this one matched like that final fight scene pretty well, but
Oh yeah, definitely.
the first one,
This one was good for the second half of the film where kind of the
things get a little more
hints
crazy.
of betrayal and kind of more
Feelings,
love is more complex than just the puppy dog love.
right?
More daggers are
And,
flying
and by the way,
around.
more people are going to die.
We
Yeah.
drank these in the right order though. Like
Yeah.
the,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
you know, Yanjing is definitely softer, happier, sweeter. Tsingtao, not
Dancing
that
with
it's,
silken robes.
not that it's unhappy,
it's
and
such
not
a
that
cool
it's not
scene.
dancing with silken robes, but it's a little more complex. There's a little bit more. I think we were saying acidity, a little more tartness or bite.
I keep wanting to say the word crackle. I know it's not right, but crisp.
Crisp.
Yeah, that's what I was fishing around crisp, and I couldn't quite get there. But I was going to ask for you guys: did you notice the Tsingtao change as it warmed up? Like, did it?
I drank mine too fast. It was still the same temperature the way through. No, it did warm up a little. but
More data
I-
needed.
I would say, I would say that yes, it probably did shift a little more to the hop, more to the more herbal floral kind of vibe. Not as sweet. Like those hops kind of
Less-
showed up as
yeah.
a
Like
orange.
less malt.
Less malty.
I kind of liked it less as it warmed up. But, I don't like hop forward beer. So
Yeah.
That's why you were throwing
getting more of
daggers
that,
around.
that bitter flavors kind of wasn't as good for me.
Yeah, that's why it says on the can and on the bottle, serve chilled.
Right.
Because you want them to
does.
be really cold. You don't want them to warm up much.
Yeah.
Even though, like I said, the sweeter beer is not going to change as much, but that not a sweet beer is going to change a bit.
How am I supposed to know this is cold? There's no mountain that turns blue on the can.
I know, right? Thank
well
you,
said.
America.
It is doing its best because it does say beer in 3 different languages.
That's
on there.
very
It even
cool.
says cerveza.
I love that.
I love the fact that it has cerveza on the can.
Yeah.
It says,
Well, quite possibly 4 because I don't read Chinese kanji, so maybe
Yeah.
it even says that. And
yeah, it possibly could. And who knows if it's in Cantonese or in Mandarin. Or is it in the general, isn't the writing cuneiform, the kanji?
the kanji, I think the kanji is kind of somewhat standardized, and I believe that like Cantonese is mostly spoken in the South, like especially Hong Kong. I think Mandarin is Beijing and like everywhere else.
Yeah.
But I mean, China's got 1,000 different small little languages too.
Right,
Like,
right.
It's more complex, but But yeah, I don't read either, so I couldn't tell you.
Ah, nuts.
We're doing our best to channel our inner, foreign language expertise. But
If it was
I'm not even trying. I know to give up.
if it was Korean, I could decipher it. I could do the hooks on phonics version.
Yeah,
of like,
yeah.
This is beer.
right on. So
Hello, may I have a beer?
yeah, this is.
I need more beers.
I think we had a good selection on the movie for celebrating and watching some good cinema.
Yeah.
And we had some great food before we got back to the house to watch the film, and these really interesting beers. I'm really happy I was able to find a few, and we enjoyed the shot of the Baijiu or however you pronounce it. But this wonderful distilled spirits from here locally in the Portland metro area. People doing good stuff. Keep it up.
Simply from Rice.
Yep. It's pretty cool though. I like it. Good
Indeed.
stuff.
And I would recommend House of Flying Daggers if you haven't seen it.
Agreed.
I would say
It holds
it's-
up.
It holds up.
It's an agelessly made film. Nothing in it's going to look.
Dated.
Yeah, exactly.
right.
Yeah.
I would say it's also mostly kid appropriate, maybe PG-13.
They might be a little bored with the
Oh, they're going to be completely
lack of action.
bored.
They're
Well, it
gonna be
depends on the
bored.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I could see some kids thinking, "Oh, this is really cool," and then the parent, talk them through. This is why the scene's happening.
Right.
But yeah, but as far as violence goes, not terribly gross.
Yeah, just a couple places where there's blood.
Yeah.
But it's not gratuitous blood.
It's
It's not
not
like-
gratuitous and
It's-
gory.
It's kind of
no.
like magical, like kung fu fighting, though. Like where
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
flying through the air and twisting and spinning. It's like dance fighting.
It's not a lot of bone cracking, crunching like in a Batman movie. It's like
Right.
graceful, like a single toe forward kick sends a guy flying backwards. I love that. It's such a cool visual.
There's a reference to torture, and there's a couple of scenes that have that touch on, like, I would say, like issues surrounding consent.
There's a couple of two scenes at least that.
So I'd say
cover that.
like teenage,
Yeah,
young
yeah.
teenage years at least. But
Yeah, this is nothing compared to what people see on TV anymore. So
correct. Yeah.
I think with the right audience, if they are teenage or younger teenagers, they'll understand it if they're willing to sit through it. If they appreciate martial arts films.
That being said, don't give teens beers. I just realized
Yes.
we were
Well, we do have-
teenagers,
this is-
teenagers.
This is for the movie part of movie and
All
the beer.
right,
Like,
all right.
Yes, this is the movie
Covering our
part.
bases.
You can do a snack, and you can do non-alcoholic beer or non-beer.
True.
You can get mochi.
You can get some mochi. Snack away.
Mochi and 7-Up. You'll be burping all night.
Yeah,
Good
you
Lord.
will. I do want to say though that the one thing I noticed is that there weren't any side fights. This was only main characters fighting. A lot of the traditional martial arts films that I've seen have the sidekick gets in a fight, or there's a scene with like the guys in the clan getting an argument and they're fighting in the restaurant or out front.
Like Kung Fu Hustle,
Yeah.
I think like the main dojo, like the mistress of the apartment complex, like she didn't even fight in the first couple of fight scenes.
Oh yeah,
It
landlady.
was all
Not
her
at all.
students. Yeah, the landlady.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
So more of the crunchy violent stuff happens in those scenes without the lead. The leads, it's all choreographed, more beautiful movement,
Highly skilled fighting.
highly skilled
Yeah,
fighting
yeah,
where they
yeah.
don't waste energy, because you sit every time you do a swing and those dudes are just swinging all over the place when those kinds of scenes. That's why it was like, someone had mentioned, like, because when the guards are running through the forest and they're holding their shields with one arm and holding their blade out.
Yeah, I was like,
behind
why don't
them,
their arms get tired?
Yeah, because they're skilled. They can hold it up there for all day long, because that's what they get trained to do as a skilled fighter versus just someone who's swinging away. And I'm going to get off my soapbox now.
Your Kung Fu soapbox.
Yes. Because it's all about
But-
kung fu fighting.
But I'd say this sounds like I think we got like 2, 4, 6, 8 thumbs up for this movie.
Yeah.
I found it to be really entertaining. I thought the love story was like well embedded in everything else that was going on. There was some like on a historical context, but there was that the visual spectacle of the landscape and the use of color, the acting and the choreography. We did. I'll disclose to our listeners, we watched a dubbed version, and that was a little awkward.
it was
or
disheartening.
A little janky in some ways, because the dialogue would pause sometimes to match when their lips were moving, and it could be William Shatner through.
Yeah, it kind
whole
of messed
movie.
up the acting.
A little
It
bit.
did.
Oh, that's another piece of trivia. There's a scene where the one was shirtless fighting a lizard man, but they thought it didn't really fit with the movie.
So yeah, if there'll be versions of it depending on what service you're streaming it from, or if you have a DVD, you can probably select the language and select
Oh
subtitles.
yeah, that's why I
or
love
not.
DVDs. They'll give you everything under the sun. It's easy to find.
So I would suggest, and this as I had heard from a friend who is Chinese and knows both Mandarin and Cantonese, who had said when they went to go see Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the non-dubbed are just straight subtitled. She said their lips are saying Cantonese, but you hear Mandarin, so it's even dubbed even more. Like it's that level deep. And she's like, she got really confused because she's like, I know what they're saying because I can lip read, but then they're saying something else in a language I also know, but it's like it didn't always match up. So even then, so you just don't ever really know. So I'm okay with these kinds of films. Like if it's dubbed, I'm okay. I'm not going to be able to understand it anyway.
Right.
So subtitles are not. I mean, the dub version was okay. The voice acting that was done wasn't bad, but they paced it so that it matched when the mouths were moving.
So Americans are easily confused.
We are, but I'll say like I am like I don't like the I am a
Purist.
I am a purist. I am a subtitle guy, and I still enjoyed this watching the dub version. It was worth it. Yeah.
You could suspend your belief enough.
I could, and even for like a dagger to like have a rotation that stops rotating while it's thrown,
And then angles and then curves.
angles and curves just right to strike where it needs to strike.
That beautiful sound effect.
Because the thrower is just that skilled.
Yet the sound design in this was pretty amazing in places.
Yeah, I pointed out when all
Just
the
a nod to
bamboo,
the sound
bamboo
designer.
stalks
Yeah.
hitting the ground. I was like, this sounds amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
And
good heavy thunk.
the beans
Yeah.
hitting the drums.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, and when a blow connected in a fight too, there was almost like a drum, like yeah.
Kept calling back to that initial bean drum scene.
the bean drum scene.
Yeah. And if you've seen Shen Yun, you'll understand what they're doing. The dance is like that. It's really cool. Long sleeves, silky. Very nice. Anyway, so thanks for listening and hanging out, everybody.
You're welcome.
We really like this film. Find some good beers if you can find some Chinese beers. Do so. Or some Asian beers of some sort. I think something lighter is very appropriate for this.
Yes.
Stick to light.
Stick to the lighter stuff.
Keep it easy. Keep it accessible.
Yes. And as always, the opinions expressed during the taping of this recording are those of the hosts. And I have been drinking some water because my hydro homie over here hooked me up. And if you don't hydrate,
I'll dehydrate you.
yes, with a dagger, with many daggers thrown from across the
Listeners,
room.
I'm holding like 20 daggers and they're just flying around the room.
And the daggers are actually made of ice because they'll become water to hydrate.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
there you
I
go.
say on theme like a Batman villain.
All right. Well, thanks for listening and hanging out. This is Dan signing out.
This is Aaron. Happy Year of the Rabbit.
Blake says bye.
And Brian says, remember, eat your fortune cookie or your fortune won't come true. Thanks for listening. Bye.